In this video, we're going to look at a Sony single disc CD player that was sent in from one of my viewers. Actually, the same guy that sent in that Sony receiver with AM stereo also sent me his CD player. So we're going to open this one up and take a look and see what it's doing. I got sent an old CDP55 Sony in for service. So let's plug this one in and see whether it does anything. Now, I have a similar machine. I have a CDP40. My first Sony single disc with a CDP40. This is its bigger brother, the CDP55. So let's turn this thing on. And we don't have any power. Okay, I have no display. Everything's dead. Could be a blown fuse. Could be something more serious like a bad power transformer. We won't know until we get the top off. Okay, here's the unit with the top off. It does have an unswitched outlet on the back. We'll just test that and see if there's power to getting to the unswitched outlet, which there is, 120 volts. So we know there's power getting into the unit. We'll just measure to see if the transformer primary is open. So I'll put my meter in ohms mode. Power switch is on, so we should see continuity, which we do, 52.2 ohms. If I turn the switch off, it goes into an overload condition, which means that our primary is not open on the power transformer itself. Therefore, we have a problem with the unit itself, maybe in the regulator circuit on the main board. So now we can start troubleshooting to see where the problem may be. So the first thing we'll do is we'll check for some of our voltages on this unit here. Coming off the transformer, we'll have a bridge rectifier in this area of the circuit here, but we have some test points on the board where we can check voltages. This one's marked plus 5 volts. So as you can see, we don't have our plus 5 volts. We do have our minus 24 volts. It's coming up at minus 22. And the ones marked AC, those should be for the filaments for the vacuum display. So if I put my meter across the AC, we see that we have 3.5 volts. So that's telling me that the 5 volt supply on this unit is not working. So we look over here to our IC, our regulators here. We can check some voltages in here. Now this one here has got nothing on the input. 0.5 volts on the output. This one here on the input, it's got minus 2.6, minus 3. So our voltages are low. So we know that the problem on this is going to be a power supply problem. So we just need to do some voltage measurements. Here on this regulator, we have 20 volts in, we have 12 volts out. So we know that the 12 volt regulator is working. If we follow the 12 volt line, see where it goes, here's our plus 12 volts. That should be, which one is it? That one? Or is it this one? Minus 12 volts is there. This should be our plus 12 volt rail, and I see nothing. There's a plus 12 volt rail there, but we should also have it over here. So this is going to be maybe one of these resistors is open. Plus 12 volts here, and R140, there's another 12 volt supply. Minus 12 volts, minus 12, so that's good. This is a plus 12 volt rail here, but this should also be a plus 12 volt rail over here, and I don't have any voltage here. Now I'm not working with a schematic on this, so I'm just having to kind of trace by eye. So I get my magnifiers on so I can see what I'm looking at here. So I'm intentionally not editing anything out here because I want you guys to see the amount of time it actually took me to find this problem, which wasn't very long. These regulator ICs look like they need to be soldered in a big way too. Check out how bad these look. We're going to resolder these. Now, of course, my camera probably won't focus, but these regulators here definitely need to be done. Right, these are in sad shape. We're not getting any power presented to them to begin with, so that's not why it's working, although that certainly goes a long ways to reliability. So we'll have to do those, but somewhere prior to that we're missing voltages. Minus 18, minus 12. So this is a negative 12 volt regulator here. This is our positive 12 volt regulator. We should have something going into this IC here for our 5 volt. And that one there's going to be our negative 5 volts. So what I'm doing now is I'm checking for heat to see if there's anything that's feeling warm. So I'm just kind of putting my finger across there to feel if any components are feeling hot, which would give an indication. Looks like something's bridged over here. There may be a short. So my 12 volt supply is making it down this way. This one here comes off of this. Minus 0.5, minus 0.5. Where is that feeding back from? That's coming from down this way. Interesting. PS901. I believe this is probably going to be, that's open. Okay, PS901 is open. Here's PS904, and it's okay. This is the protector. It's a fuse. PS901. Okay, 12.9 volts on one side, the other side 0.5. We have a protector that is open on this unit. So let me see what type of protector it is. It's going to be one of those little ICPs. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to have one or not. I'll have to look and see. But let's pop the board out here and take a look and see what size it is. And is it just the protector that's popped, or is something else popped that's caused the protector to go? That's what we have to find out. Okay, one screw on the back here where between the audio outputs, the board flips up. Here we go. Protectors, where the heck are they? These capacitors look to be in pretty good shape. I don't see anything bulging on them, any of these ones. Our protector is right down in here. Right in here. Let's get that thing out of there. Oh, it looks like PS904 doesn't even exist. PS904 is just a jumper wire. You can see it. Let me zoom the camera in here so you guys can see it. Hopefully it's going to focus. Come on, camera, focus. You know you could. PS904 right down in here. It's just a jumper wire. Here's PS901 over here. It's an ICP. Let me just heat up my solder iron and we will remove this thing. Okay, here comes the thumbs down. Right now, here they come. I'm going to use the solder wick. We know how much people love that stuff, right? It was 901 that I'm removing. My iron might not be quite hot enough yet. There we go. Tell you, it was really warm out today. It's 22nd of November, and it was like 14 degrees out here today. I was walking around working. I had to take my jacket off. It was so warm outside. It was raining earlier in the day, but it was really, really warm out today, which is unusual for this time of year. But that's what happens when you live on the West Coast, is it's usually pretty warm. There's it's an N15, so let me look up what that is in terms of specs. So an ICP N15 protector is a 0.6 amp. Very fast blow. It's a IC protector, so it's a fuse, but it's a very quick blowing fuse. So I'm gonna go through my stash and see if I can find one of these things. Okay, I found one. Same value. It's an ICP N15. Exactly the same as the original one. We're gonna pop this thing back into the circuit board here, and so I'm going to resolder these regulators here. Might as well put the board back in place for now. I'm going to resolder these regulators because they could have been what caused this thing to go open in the first place. So let's get the So these are the positive and negative, plus and minus 5 volt regulators to operate the digital circuitry on this player. I'll do the other regulators while I'm at it, just because they get hot and heat stress fractures. Oh, sounds like it's raining out now. Actually, it sounds like it's really raining. It just started to rain here in the last few minutes, and it sounds like it's pouring out. Well, they said we were gonna get a good storm. We have a Pineapple Express that's blowing through here from Hawaii. That's why we've got almost summertime temperatures here at the end of November. A few more connections down here I can spot that don't look to be too swift on some of these transistors. So we'll do those at the same time. So that looks good. We'll just reattach the ground screws for the board and then try it and see whether this thing powers up. Okay, apply power, turn on the switch. I got light. I have light. Very cool. And the disk drawer just opened up on its own. Let's plug this thing in and see if it works. Actually, I think we probably have more than this at fault, because the disc will not go back in and the spindle motor is spinning with no disc in here. And when I push the open close button, it's not closing. Therefore, we have more problems than just a blown protector. The protector probably blew because something else failed. So let's check for voltages. Okay, once again, we'll check our voltages here. Here's our 12 volts in and 5 volts out. And, oh, we don't have our negative voltage. That's what's gone. We're missing our negative 5 volt supply. So where are we missing that one? Just got to see where it feeds. Negative 16. Negative 16 here. This will be our negative supply voltage over here. And I've got negative 1.3. So we're missing our negative supply voltage. Let's just see where we're missing it. Input is here. I believe it's got its own ICP over here, PS902. Negative 13, negative 1. Okay, so we have a second one gone. Okay, well, I'll have to see. I might have another one. Let's change out that one. Looks like both of these ICPs are toast. I was looking at PS904 thinking that was the other one, but it's not. It's 902. So that is probably all that's wrong with this thing. Hopefully that's all that's wrong with it. Maybe a power surge that caused it, or it could have been these regulators, solder connections broke. But let me just pull PS902 out. It's going to be, I'm sure, the same size, and then I got to go back to that old VCR chassis. It's an old JVC VCR chassis that I'm ripping these parts out of. PS902 is this one right there, so let's just remove that one. Just make sure that everything is shut off here and unplugged. And we'll make sure that there's no charge on here. Okay, now there's no charge. There we go. Another thumbs down for using solder wick. Okay, is it the same size? Yes, it is, an ICP N15. Let me go find another one. Okay, got another one here. Let's pop the new one in. One more time here, we'll plug it in. There. That's better. Let's get our CD here. Music Bakery CD. Spins up nicely. We'll play. And, oh, may help if I turn on my speakers. There we go. It's working. Wonderful. Take a look. I'll show you guys the display on this thing. These are kind of cool. I like these CD players. They're neat looking. Has a lot of features that more modern CD players did not have. And if I were to go dig up some of my Fresh Air CDs, we could actually take advantage of some of them, because this has indexing, which was only used on very, very few CDs. So let's take a look at this thing from the front. So if we stop the unit, well, first of all, if we press the shuffle key, it'll play at random. It'll just pick any track. If I hit the AMS, RMS button, it'll find a new track. Check out how fast this searches too. Let me turn it up a bit so you guys can hear it. It's actually very quick at searching. And you notice as it plays, it actually deletes. Now, if I stop it, if I turn off the shuffle play, which is this button here, stop. If I say I want to play a specific tracks in specific order, see if I can remember how to do this. If I say I want to start with track number 8 and then I hit program, it'll show me the first position. I gotta lower this camera down so you guys can see this. Okay, continuing. I dial up my next track, say track number 19, I hit program. That'll be the second program. Then I want to go to track number 1, program, and then say I want to go to, I don't know how many tracks are on this disc, 20 tracks. I want to go to track number 20 and then hit program. Now I've just programmed 4 tracks. And notice the accumulated time is 15 minutes 50 seconds for those 4 tracks. Hit the skip button. It'll go to track number 19 because that was the second track that I programmed in. Track number 1. And then of course, track 20. As you can see, this thing searches really quick from one end of the disc to the next. Neat little player. Hit stop twice to clear it. Now you've got auto space. I'm trying to remember how this thing works. Auto space will put an equal space between each track. That's so that if you are recording this onto a cassette, even if there's only a 2-second space between each track, it will make it a 5-second space, so that if you're going to use a search feature of a cassette player, it would be able to find the blank space. So if I press play, it will now play that. We'll skip to the end of this track so you can see how the spacing works for the next track. So now the track's finished playing. We've got auto space. Adds 3 seconds of wait. There it goes, right? So it adds a 3-second delay. Automatic 3-second delay. So it doesn't matter whether, there's no delay on this disc, by the way. When I recorded this, there is no delay. If I turn off the auto space and we cue it back, watch what happens. See? I've queued this disc up with no preset space between the discs. So if we watch here, it'll go right to the next track. But if I turn the auto space on and then I go back there again, now watch, it'll put a 3-second delay. There you go, 3, 2, 1, play. That's what auto space does on this. And what else has it got? Oh, it's got a repeat mode. You can repeat one track over and over, or you can repeat all the tracks. So you press it, it's one track repeat, all tracks. So now it'll play the entire disc. And if you put it in shuffle play with all track, it'll just keep playing. None of these will go out when I skip. Actually, I guess they will, and then when it's done, it'll repeat the whole thing. It'll do all the tracks, and then it'll start over. If that's turned off, it'll just play all the tracks in random and then stop. You've also got an auto, or an A-B repeat. So if you're playing something, and you just hit the repeat button, A, and then B, and then hit it again, now it'll just play that segment over and over. So that's the basic features of this unit. It also has a feature called index. And the only way I would be able to demonstrate index is if I could find a CD that used the index feature. I have some. Mannheim Steamroller, on a couple of the Fresh Air releases, they used index as opposed to using tracks. They used tracks as well, but indexes were sub-indexes in a track. So if you had a track that was 10 minutes long, but it was divided into 3 parts in that 10-minute track, they could have part 1, part 2, part 3. It was really something that was used only in the early days of the compact disc, and it was pretty much limited to classical releases where you could have an entire concerto that may have had 5 or 6 movements in it of like a 30-minute concert performance, and it might have 5 or 6 movements, and rather than have it as track 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, because the problem with that is a lot of CD players, when they get to that track break, there will be an interruption in sound, right? Even if there's no space put between track 1 and track 2 and track 3 and track 4, there would be a momentary interruption of sound on most CD players. So what they would do in the classical music is they would include them all on one track and then have multiple subchapters. So when you were playing and you wanted to go to, you know, subtitle 3, you could hit index 3 and it would scan for it. Now, of course, it's not going to find anything here because there isn't anything recorded on this. If I were to go into my collection of CDs of my, you know, I don't know, I think probably close to 1,000 CDs that I bought over the years. If I were to go through the bins, they're all stored in big plastic totes. But if I were to go through and find the Fresh Air collection from Mannheim Steamroller, I could demonstrate that. But I don't feel like spending an hour looking for that disc because I've taken all my CDs and I've put them all on a hard drive. So I put all my CDs away. So 2 other things we're going to do on this CD player before I send it out is I'm going to grease the rails for the laser, and I'm also going to change the loading belt because the loading belt is going to be worn out on this thing for sure. If it's not, it's going to be not far behind. So we're going to take the loading belt out here if I can. And we'll find a new one. So there's the belt. I'm going to go find another belt so I can replace this. And we're just going to put some grease on. The rails actually aren't dry, but we're going to put some grease on here just to prevent any stiction on a future date because this is going back across the country, so I don't want it to break down. So I've got another belt here. It's a little bit smaller than the original one. So we'll try that one. We'll get that one in here. Okay, that's that. And then we'll get some of our Molykote grease. The rails for the CD, for the laser pickup. Just have to put a little bit of this stuff on here and it will work its way in when the pickup moves back and forth a few times. Nice stretched spring. We'll put our disc back in. And we'll just go to track number 20. And that will lubricate the mechanism. So I'm just in random mode now and I'm just letting it go back and forth. There we go. Mechanism is lubricated. It's got a new belt. Good for another 100,000 miles. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.